Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to introduce you to the fascinating mystical realm of Dominican folklore as we delve into the intricate world of La Ciguapa. A creature surrounded in mystery and myth, La Ciguapa has long captivated the imaginations of those who have heard whispers of her existence. Now, before we get started, let me introduce you to the group members who will guide you through this fascinating exploration. My name is Jenna Darwish, and I will be introducing you to who La Ciguapa really is and exposing you to her true humanity. My group member, Mariana Santiago, will dive into the La Ciguapa's portrayal in media and explain how La Ciguapa has influenced our world. Finally, Alexander Ali will provide a timeline surrounding the life of La Ciguapa and conclude this presentation. Introduction. Now, you may be asking yourself, how and where can one find stories about this mysterious and intriguing creature? Through bedtime stories, oral traditions, and even cautionary tales, the stories of La Ciguapa have been worked into the intricate web of Dominican culture. But first, just to get your attention, let me give you a little hypothetical to pique your imagination. Envision a starry evening in the central region of the Dominican Republic. The forest is alive with the sounds of the night, and the air is heavy with the perfume of tropical flowers. You can almost hear the murmurs of La Ciguapa, her eerie presence lurking outside of the storytelling circle as the locals gather around a flickering campfire. What truths might be concealed in the shadows, and what secrets would she reveal? The truth is, La Ciguapa is unfortunately a misunderstood being. Our mission today is not to prolong the fear surrounding La Ciguapa, but rather to challenge the current narrative. We firmly believe that she is not a monster, as society has often portrayed her to be so. La Ciguapa's curse is from wishful wanting of love, but the original story was contorted from word of mouth to make her seem like a jealous, ravenous beast who seduces men and kills them. Thus, society tends to link woman's beauty with danger or deception. We will present evidence from historical accounts, cultural perspectives, and modern reinterpretations of this mythical figure, so get ready to journey with us into the heart of the mystery of La Ciguapa. So, who really is La Ciguapa? Now that we've dipped our toes into the origins of La Ciguapa, let's unravel the mystery surrounding her. To start off, I'm going to briefly introduce you to the original story of La Ciguapa. The legend was introduced by Francisco Javier Angulo Guridi in 1866. Since the image of La Ciguapa has been twisted and contorted, it is hard to tell what her original legend really was. What I can tell you, however, is that she did not appear to be a feral creature. She was actually an enchanted beauty. Imagine her as a forest spirit, a gorgeous being with long, flowing, black hair that effortlessly covers her dark skin. But what really makes her unique is this detail. Her feet are turned backwards. This unique quality enhances her mystical appeal and makes it extremely difficult for hunters and other travelers to find her in the intricate surroundings she calls home. Continuing her exploration, La Ciguapa occupies a space between the human and spirit realm, not fully belonging to either. She blurs the line between supernatural entities and mythical beings. She has a similar look of a human, the feeling of a human, but the functions of a supernatural being. So, how does the original story differ from the modern depictions of La Ciguapa? La Ciguapa is currently seen by society as a hateful, jealous being. It is said that when encountering La Ciguapa, it is not to be a chance of meeting, but a dangerous sign. Her very cry through the forest is thought to predict bad luck, and her presence is frequently connected to approaching disaster. According to legend, La Ciguapa lives in the most isolated highlands and deep forests, leading a solitary and lonely life. Her rarity adds to the mystery surrounding her, as she glides between the woods, leaving no trace because of her backwards feet. When La Ciguapa is near, some say you hear mysterious chirping noises, further adding to the mystery that surrounds this alluring figure. Now, as captivating as her story is, it is important to remember that over the years, the original narrative has been distorted and flawed. Misconceptions, fear, superstitions have contributed to portraying La Ciguapa as a malevolent monster, overlooking her true nature as a guardian deeply connected to the Dominican landscapes. Think of La Ciguapa like a Dominican version of a black cat. Just as black cats are often seen as mysterious and superstitious in Western cultures, La Ciguapa's presence is surrounded by similar beliefs in the Dominican Republic, contributing to the misconceptions that she brings bad luck. This shows how, no matter where you are, people tend to connect mysterious beings with signs of trouble.
Welcome back, horror lovers! Today we'll be talking about the Ciguapas, creatures which live in the mountain regions of the Dominican Republic. People say they look like women with dark complexion and green eyes. However, some say that their skin can also be blue. Their hair is so long that it reaches their knees, but their most prominent feature is that their feet are backwards. Marco knew stories about these creatures and was determined to find out if the legend was true or not. So he took a plane to Santo Domingo, and from there he traveled to the Central Highlands. He read that the Ciguapas would come out at night from the forest and caves they inhabited, so he decided to camp in the middle of the mountain. Marco didn't see anything strange during the first 3 days, and was getting more scared about being attacked by a snake or some other wild animal. So on the 4th day, he decided that would be his last night in the mountain and regretted how he foolishly wasted so much time. However, at least he had a vacation filled with sun and beaches at the beautiful Caribbean coast to look forward to. That last night in the mountain, Marco noticed something strange. Far away, he heard some sort of soft moan. He didn't know what it was, but something pushed him to follow that voice. He felt hypnotized, and that noise seduced him to the point that he was no longer acting on his own. His legs seemed to be walking on their own, as if they knew exactly where to go. Marco arrived at some sort of lake. Everything was dark, and the only light was the one reflected by the moon, and the one coming from his flashlight. And next to the lake, on top of a few stones, there she was. The most beautiful creature he had ever seen. She was playing with her hair while she produced sounds which, to him, sounded like singing from the gods themselves. Then, the Ciguapa suddenly realized that Marco was observing her. She shyly giggled and ran away with her naked body. She went deep into the forest until Marco lost sight of her. He followed her footprints, which were backwards, as he pushed away the branches and vegetation in his path. And next to what seemed to be a cave, the Ciguapa was waiting for Marco, covering her naked body with her hair. Marco approached her, seduced by her beauty, and she smiled at him as she kept singing. However, guards with dogs suddenly appeared, scaring the Ciguapa and making her run away. The guards explained to Marco that he was in danger, that the creature managed to charm him and was going to trap him in her cave to then kill him. The only way to scare off a Ciguapa is with a dog that has white and black spots and 5 claws on each paw. And such dogs are almost impossible to find, since normal dogs only have 4 claws. So, do you think the Ciguapas actually exist?
This video portrays one of the many stories depicting La Ciguapa as a woman who lures men in to kill them. This narrative is damaging to the perception of La Ciguapa's true character, exposing La Ciguapa. As we peel back the layers of how La Ciguapa came to be, we discover a narrative that deviates from the fear-inducing tales often associated with her. In the original story, La Ciguapa reveals herself not as a malevolent being, but rather as a lovesick creature driven by a unique kind of envy for the human experience. Picture yourself in a world where you yearn for the warmth of human connection while observing from the shadows. La Ciguapa is in this situation. As she observes the beauty of human interactions, envy flows through her ethereal veins, an emotion that sets off a journey of uncharted territory. La Ciguapa is a lone figure lost in the pain of unfulfilled love as she walks through the moonlit forests and foggy hills of the Dominican Republic. Her heart pulsates with the rhythms of the night, yearning to connect with the very humans she finds herself envious of. In the true versions of the legend, La Ciguapa's mysterious nature and haunting winds through the forest, which I mentioned earlier, are not expressions of malice, but rather echoes of her unrequited love. She is said to be enchanted by the simplicity and depth of human emotions, especially the bonds formed through love. Yet, her unconventional appearance and backwards-facing feet render her unable to fully partake in these experiences, leading to a sense of longing and envy. Rather than a monster, we discover a being who is trapped between two worlds and longs for understanding and connection. She is unable to overcome the gap that divides her from the human experience. This perspective humanizes La Ciguapa, transforming her from a creature of dread to one driven by the universal and relatable desire for love and belonging, the human side of La Ciguapa. Now that we have exposed La Ciguapa for not really being a monster, let's look at her as a human. When trapped, she dies of sadness and despair. No one likes being chained down without freedom. She wants to be free, free to love. This moving depiction explores universal themes of the desire for independence and self-determination, going beyond the legend. It rejects the monster myth by portraying La Ciguapa as a person motivated by the buried need to be wanted and to be freed. Expanding on this, being trapped in the chains of societal expectations, La Ciguapa's death is not simply a consequence of being a mythical figure. It becomes a hidden metaphor for the vulnerability and despair that accompanies being restrained. In this tragic tale, she debunks the monster narratives, embodying the human struggle against constraints that shackle the spirit. Her yearning for freedom and connection emphasizes the human parts of the folklore that are so compelling. Art depictions of La Ciguapa vary, but this piece of work, by Domingo Alberto Guaba Rodriguez, reveals the human aspects of La Ciguapa. It breaks from the typical sexualized Ciguapa and represents her true essence. She is a simple maiden who longs for love, whose feet distinguish her from normality and thus prevents her goal. This representation is free from the tainted narrative of a sexualized, lustful demon whose beauty is threatening. Here, her beauty is not her power, her body is not her weapon, but instead, she is the true, vulnerable, and peaceful being. This holds as much power and symbolism of lovesick woman as the contorted, sexualized version. This goes to show how unnecessary and harmful the modern take of the Ciguapa is. Not only is La Ciguapa a figure of legend, but she is also a silent opponent of societal norms and a living example of the never-ending human need for freedom, love, and the power to control one's own fate. And exploring the emotional landscapes of La Ciguapa, we recognize her as a mirror reflecting the intricacies of human complexity. She is not purely a creature to be feared. She is painted with the hues of love, longing, vulnerability, and the indomitable pursuit of freedom.
Like any good monster, La Ciguapa is everywhere. She's in literature, she's in media, she's in art. We cannot ignore her. And through these depictions we see a peaceful being who just wants love. We see a vengeful siren who seduces and kills men. And we also see a jealous being who is envious of human nature. La Ciguapa's existence extends beyond folklore and enters the realm of literature. In Josefina Baez's poem 123 Portrait Legend, she's depicted as an alien in a new and industrialized world. It offers a fresh perspective that intertwines her mythical origins with contemporary themes. This work depicts a curious being who is immersed in a new environment. The Ciguapa is used as a symbol of old culture having to adapt to new surroundings, and it really rings true in today's world as it evolves and new customs and cultures intertwine. This portrayal is a refreshing take on the usual narrative of La Ciguapa. It shows how she is more than a being that just kills. It once again exposes the human side of La Ciguapa, as Jenna had mentioned. The Ciguapa story has transcended generations through word of mouth, evolving from its publication by Francisco Javier Angulo Guridi in 1866. With each rendition, different characteristics are added to La Ciguapa, and it deviates her character from her true essence. And although oral tradition is deeply embedded in cultures and thus it should be preserved, it should also be noted that it can create false narratives and that indirectly affects groups of society. In 2022, Monica Moore directed a short film titled La Ciguapa Siempre. The film tells the story of Milagro and her boyfriend Davis while camping. The familiar scenario around a campfire triggers the legendary chirping noises and reminiscent of the original folklore. This is the trailer of the film La Ciguapa Siempre by Monica Moore.
Just feels like I know something, or like I'm trying to remember something. I just don't know how to explain it. I just wanted to know.
Stop worrying.
In this film, La Ciguapa is shown as previously human, but as she increasingly becomes angry with her cheating, denying boyfriend, she becomes inhuman, marking her as a demonic character as opposed to shy and peaceful. It derives from the perspective that of La Ciguapa being a dangerous creature, and further spreads the notion that she attacks men. Milagro's suspicion and subsequent transformation into La Ciguapa introduces a modern twist to the age-old legend, reflecting the enduring relevance of this mythical creature in contemporary storytelling. La Ciguapa has been a muse for many artists, and her appeal extends beyond books and movies. Her image can be seen in a variety of forms and mediums, from statues and paintings, anything you can think of, all of which highlight her obvious backward-facing feet. Her long hair and attractive body are recurrent motifs of beauty that draw attention to the role that aesthetics play in both her monstrous appearance and her enduring attraction. As we saw before, art can also depict La Ciguapa's human side, but it is overwhelmingly overshadowed by the rest of her media representations. Also mentioned before, the oral tradition added more characteristics to the creature, further deviating her from her human aspects that crave love. Through art, we can see siren-like depictions of her, as both their modern stories share similar characteristics. Sirens and La Ciguapa seduce men with their looks and their tempting features and kill them. The abundant art that features La Ciguapa further pushes the portrayal of a threateningly beautiful monster as opposed to a shy, lovesick creature. And with all this, it leaves the question, if the original narrative of La Ciguapa remained intact, how do you think her media depictions would change? Would she be as prominent in Dominican culture as she is now, or would her story just be another one that is lost in translation? As we witness La Ciguapa's evolution across different media, we recognize how her tale resonates through time and adapts to new narratives, reflecting the dynamic nature of folklore and its ability to capture each spirit with each generation. Now, some of you may be thinking, what does this have to do with me? Well, it may not exactly affect you directly, however, the story of La Ciguapa does have a major influence on society. La Ciguapa's narrative, wherein her beauty becomes a powerful tool to lure men, contributes to the reinforcement of gender stereotypes. The portrayal of women as an enchantress capable of easily swaying men with their looks not only perpetuates gender roles and norms, but they also serve as a way to police and dictate women's behavior. It also reinforces traditional roles where women exist only to entertain men, or that idea. This narrative that has been passed down through the years represents greater societal tendencies to regulate women's behavior by restricting them to positions that are determined by their perceived attractiveness and ability to deceive men. La Ciguapa's beauty and long flowing hair and captivating body all contribute to her attraction, which reflects social pressure on women to meet those established beauty standards. The depiction frequently supports the belief that women's worth is derived from her outward appearances. It maintains harmful beauty standards that have a negative impact on women's self-esteem and perpetuate unjustified expectations. La Ciguapa turns into a symbol whose beauty serves as both a weapon and as societal pressure on women. Moreover, La Ciguapa's myth reflects the societal perception of women as jealous and vindictive creatures. The character's transformation, which is frequently brought on by emotions of unfulfilled love or betrayal, is consistent with the historical stereotype. Drawing once again from the successful short film by Moore, the girlfriend Milagro becomes overwhelmingly uneasy of her suspicions, causing rage to build up inside her. Her rage and jealousy transform her into La Ciguapa. This film reinforced the notions of women being vengeful. The previously mentioned stereotype has real-world consequences as it leads to the unfair categorization of women as excessively emotional or resentful. It therefore reinforces harmful misconceptions that diminish the complexity of women's experiences. As we know, the story of La Ciguapa has transformed throughout the years, but what do you think were the original intentions of La Ciguapa? What were her original values? What were the original values or ideas that were implanted in her story? Would the narrative have influenced society differently? And we wonder in what way. As we end the near of our journey, this all begs the question, why does this matter? Why are we presenting this information to you guys? Why should you guys care that La Ciguapa is misrepresented? It's a legend that's like almost 150 years old. To set the stage, consider how cultural stories such as La Ciguapa are more than unimportant folklore fragments. They are real breathing beings that influence our collective perception of the world. It is like shifting the stars at night. When we misunderstand and falsify these stories, we are warping the entire fabric of our cultural universe. So does it matter that La Ciguapa has been distorted or is not really like the original tale? The core value of cultural heritage holds the key to the answer. Every story serves as a moral compass to lead us through the intricate web of human experience. It is an attempt to preserve cultural facts rather than merely pursue accuracy when challenging La Ciguapa's tale. When challenging the narrative of La Ciguapa, it helps empower women's voices. Female figures in the folklore are misrepresented as seen with La Ciguapa, which contributes to the silencing of women in society and it perpetuates harmful narratives. La Ciguapa does not talk, and it can only make chirps and whines to communicate. The original and current narrative both hold these characteristics. However, the original narrative used her limited communication to highlight her peacefulness, her shyness, while the current negative uses the muted characteristic to emphasize her malevolence. She kills to soothe her insatiable lust and preys on men's weaknesses. Her warped story emphasizes on her beauty and sexuality, being the prime characteristic which silences La Ciguapa even more along with women in society. Considering that La Ciguapa is most known for her MO of using her looks to seduce men and put them in a trance, it is clear that she is representing women's sexuality and self-expression. The fact that those characteristics is what creates the narrative that she is a monster emphasizes the notion that beauty is dangerous. It goes to show the sexualization that women encounter in society. Despite the original story where La Ciguapa is a shy, lovesick being whose power is her curse, it has evolved to La Ciguapa using her superficial attributes to directly harm men. It spreads the idea that women using their looks and body are dangerous and deceitful. Therefore, all beautiful women that always have an underlying incentive in their actions. The fact that this narrative is the most popular and used to depict La Ciguapa normalizes the objectification of women. It harms the hard-working women that are just trying to get through life in an already oppressive world when they are slapped with the warning to be cautious around them. Every story that arises from cultures holds lessons and values that are important. When cultural stories are misunderstood or misconstrued, it presents a risk of losing the true essence embedded in those stories. It is important to ensure that cultural heritage is accurately passed down through the generations. Let us not forget that this has just not been an explanation of folklore. It is a call to action, a message to keep the legends carved into the skies and stars above, and the true stories echoing through generations to remain intact, vivid, and true.
Timeline. According to Dominican folklore, stories of La Ciguapa date back hundreds of years. Though her origins remain shrouded in mystery. Tales of this mythical creature first emerged during the colonial era. Some of the earliest known written accounts referencing La Ciguapa come from the late 1800s. However, her lore likely exists in oral traditions and small communities long before that. Local legends recounted encounters in remote lush forests, so her myth seems firmly rooted in the geography and nature of the Dominican countryside. While the earliest written accounts of La Ciguapa emerged in the late 1800s, she almost certainly existed in oral storytelling traditions much earlier than that, and the connection of her lore to the dense forest and scenic natural landscape of the Dominican Republic is deeply significant. It's easy to imagine tales of La Ciguapa originating hundreds of years ago in small rural villages and isolated mountain communities, told around campfires or mentioned quietly between farmers working the land. You can compare Latin monsters to each other and find many similarities, which cause superstition to develop organically from specific environments and geography. People would have encountered strange sounds and sights while venturing deep into the forests that blanket the rugged Dominican terrain. Unfamiliar creatures, shadows, fierce storms all could trigger imaginations of magical entities that became folkloric explanations passed through generations. The mystery and perceived danger of traveling in untamed, sometimes harsh, natural settings makes fertile ground for otherworldly narratives. La Ciguapa myth spread across the Caribbean and Latin America throughout the early 20th century, becoming popularized internationally by the 1970s. During this period, she transitioned more from regional secret and superstition to mainstream pop culture icon. As travel, media, and communications accelerated cultural diffusion processes in the mid-20th century, however, the myth of the alluring Ciguapa rapidly spread. By the 1970s onwards, La Ciguapa seamlessly made the leap into international pop culture through literature, music, art, film, and television. La Ciguapa became an exciting and mysterious symbol of tropical lands and Latino magical beliefs. Everyone from academics to adventure writers highlighted alleged sightings, speculating if she might actually exist in the lush Eden of the Dominican rainforest. While skeptics for centuries dismissed Ciguapa as superstition, many rural villages still claim to have periodic Ciguapa sightings, particularly around full moons. As myth endures, she is now widely considered the most popular legendary creature in the Dominican Republic, despite the ongoing skepticism amongst academics, scientists, and urban intellectuals. Belief in the reality of La Ciguapa remains remarkably resilient amongst rural Dominicans most familiar with the deep forests where she dwells. This enduring faith centers around continued alleged sightings. Even today, periodic eyewitnesses accounts emerge claiming glimpses of a woman with long dark hair obscuring her face by a country road at night, or strange crackles resonating through the trees under a full moon. Dominican tabloids often feature blurry photographs of unusual footprints or claw marks attributed to La Ciguapa. La Ciguapa has long captured imaginations across Latin cultures. Her appeal and mystique does not seem to be fading anytime soon. She has backwards turned feet, long dark hair covering her face, and scaly or reptilian body features, which makes her seem out of this world. but also strangely alluring. People are drawn to her dangerous beauty and animalistic tendencies. From a scholarly perspective, La Ciguapa has come to embody cultural themes around female magical power, nature spirits, social taboos, and foreign influences. Analyzing what she represents reveals much about Latin history, beliefs, gender roles, and identity. Conclusion. To finally conclude this thrilling, compelling journey through understanding La Ciguapa and the different narratives surrounding her, we will leave you with this advice. Let La Ciguapa be more than a folklore character. Let her be an invitation to reshape our perception and redefine the narratives that shape our world. Let the stories etched into historical Dominican culture not warped or misinterpreted. See La Ciguapa for who she truly is, a mystical being who mourned for the feeling of love and acceptance, but was unfortunately mistaken for a ravenous monster whose only intention was to lure men in and kill them. We hope this journey has filled you with thoughtful information that you can leave with a fresh perspective. With our limited time, we have a few ends loose. Maybe you can help us. Do you think most academic scholars believe there is any realistic possibility that La Ciguapa is based on a real creature? Or is she studied as pure myth and exaggeration? What typical elements seem consistent across most stories involving La Ciguapa? Thank you.